The day everything changed began under a harsh, ordinary sun, the kind that exposes every crack in the sidewalk and every quiet injustice people try not to see. In the middle of a crowded daytime market street, with shop signs buzzing and shoppers rushing past, a single father named Aaron Cole stood frozen as a security guard's voice rose above the noise, accusing a wheelchair-bound teenage girl of stealing food she could barely afford, let alone hide. What followed in the next few hours would unravel secrets, test courage, and prove that kindness, when chosen in the worst moments, can echo farther than anyone imagines. That if you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for those who cannot stand for themselves, please take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal. Your support keeps stories like this alive and reminds the world that compassion still matters. Aaron had not planned to be a hero that day. He was a widowed single dad, surviving on long hours and quiet sacrifices, raising his 8-year-old son Milo with more love than money. The morning had been routine. Drop Milo at school, stop by the grocery store, and pick up bread and medicine before heading to his construction shift. Life for Aaron was a careful balance, always measured, always tight, but honest. He believed if he stayed quiet, worked hard, and caused no trouble, life would eventually soften. He was wrong. Inside the store, the air smelled of detergent and warm bread, sunlight streaming through the front windows. That was when he noticed her. The girl sat in a worn wheelchair near the checkout aisle, her legs thin and unmoving beneath a faded blanket. Her name, he would later learn, was Naira Voss. She looked no older than 17, her face pale, eyes tired but alert, the kind of eyes that had learned to observe rather than expect. A small bag of rice and a packet of apples rested on her lap. She waited quietly, almost invisibly, as if trying to take up as little space as possible in a world already unwilling to give her any. The accusation came suddenly. A store employee pointed at her bag, insisting something was missing from the shelf. The security guard blocked her path, his shadow falling heavy over her wheelchair. People slowed, stared, whispered, then looked away. Naira's hands trembled as she tried to explain with broken confidence that everything she had was paid for, that she had receipts folded carefully in her pocket. No one listened. Poverty, disability, and silence made her an easy target. Aaron felt something twist in his chest. He thought of Milo, of how fragile dignity was, of how quickly the world judged. He could have walked away. He needed to be at work. He needed the money. But instead, he stepped forward into the bright fluorescent light and placed himself between the guard and the girl. He asked to see the proof, asked why no one had checked the cameras, asked why a girl who could barely move was being treated like a criminal in the middle of the day. The tension thickened. The guard grew defensive. The manager was called. The crowd grew. Naira's face flushed with shame, tears pressing dangerously close as she stared at the floor tiles. Aaron stayed. He spoke calmly but firmly, his voice steady even as his heart raced. He offered to pay for anything missing, even though he knew that would mean skipping his own groceries. He refused to let the matter escalate into humiliation or police involvement without evidence. Time dragged on. Finally, the footage was checked. The truth emerged quietly, almost anticlimactically. There had been no theft. The inventory error came from a miscount earlier that morning. The apology, when it arrived, was thin and rushed, offered more to clear the store than to heal the wound inflicted. The crowd dispersed, interest gone. Justice, it seemed, was something to be handled quickly and forgotten faster. Naira remained still, staring at her hands, the weight of accusation lingering long after it had been disproven. Aaron knelt beside her wheelchair, making sure she was okay. He noticed how light her groceries were, how worn her shoes looked, how alone she seemed. Without making a show of it, he insisted on walking with her outside, helping her into the sunlit street where the noise of traffic felt kinder than the whispers inside. Outside, the day was warm. Naira explained, slowly and carefully, that she lived nearby with her father, who had been ill for a long time. She had been paralyzed since childhood after an accident that also took her mother. Money was scarce. Pride was all they had left. Aaron listened, feeling the familiar ache of loss and responsibility. He saw not weakness in her, but strength sharpened by survival. Days passed, but Aaron could not forget her. He returned to his routine, but something had shifted. He began stopping by the same street more often, sometimes bringing extra groceries, sometimes just checking if Naira needed help getting up the ramp to her building. Her apartment was small, sunlit, and modest, filled with medical equipment and old photographs. Her father, Jonah Voss, was a quiet man with tired eyes and a body worn thin by illness. He thanked Aaron politely, but there was something guarded in his expression, something unreadable. As weeks went by, Aaron learned that Jonah rarely left the apartment, that he struggled with chronic pain and a past he did not speak of. Aaron never pressed. He simply helped when he could. Milo sometimes came along, offering shy smiles and stories from school, bringing laughter into a space that had grown heavy with silence. One afternoon, as sunlight poured through the windows, Jonah suffered a severe episode. Naira panicked, unable to move quickly enough to get help. She called Aaron, her voice shaking. He rushed over, carrying Jonah down the stairs with neighbors watching, and drove them to the hospital under the bright afternoon sky. Doctors worked quickly. Paperwork followed. Names were checked. That was when the truth surfaced. A doctor recognized Jonah's name, then confirmed it quietly. Jonah Voss was not just a poor, sick man. Years ago, he had been a respected investigator who exposed a massive corruption ring involving illegal business practices that had cost powerful people millions. After refusing bribes and threats, his life had fallen apart. He lost his job, his protection, and eventually his health. The accident that paralyzed Naira happened during that same dark period, when a forced relocation and unsafe conditions changed their lives forever. Aaron stood stunned. The man whose daughter he had defended without hesitation was someone who had once defended countless others at enormous personal cost. Jonah had paid the price for doing the right thing, and the world had quietly moved on. Jonah survived the episode, but the truth weighed heavily on Aaron. He realized that kindness had connected two broken stories in a way neither had expected. Aaron was later approached by a legal aid group connected to Jonah's past work. Old cases were reopened. Compensation was discussed. Not as charity, but as justice. Long delayed change did not come overnight, but it came steadily, in daylight, step by step. Naira received proper medical support and a new wheelchair that allowed her more independence. Jonah's name was cleared publicly, his work acknowledged. Aaron was offered a better position through a company tied to the reopened cases, one that paid fairly and respected integrity. Milo watched it all with wide eyes, learning lessons no classroom could teach. Near the end of summer, under a clear blue sky, Aaron watched Naira wheel herself confidently through the same market street where she had once been accused. This time, shopkeepers greeted her by name. People smiled. The past had not vanished, but it no longer defined her. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your engagement helps spread stories that remind us compassion can change lives. And before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with the word kindness if you believe that standing up for one person can change more than one life. Aaron never considered himself brave. He simply chose not to look away on an ordinary day. But sometimes, that is all it takes. One moment. One choice. One act of kindness that quietly rewrites the future.